Yes, I see it now. I'm just adjusting the podium. Thank you. The camera angle seems more narrow, period. The podium has to be in the center of the room in order for it to be on the camera.
Oh, good.
Hey, hi, how are you?
Setting it up for me. Or are you doing it?
I didn't realize you were coming. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No,
No.
it's good.
This is for.
For the fire apparatus.
I can leave. I'm cool with
I
leaving.
like your earrings, Robin.
Thank you.
You look like a fashion, like you're a ooh, like wow, Robin.
So is it for them?
It wasn't the fire commission. That's why I wasn't expecting you to be here.
Okay. It's the fire board bringing up their stuff to it.
It's the village board is having a fire apparatus review.
Okay.
Like where they paid someone to come in and review all of the fire trucks.
Okay.
And now that person is presenting to the village board.
Good. I'm gonna leave and make the agape dinner that I didn't think I could make.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, because it's not like it's not the fire commission. It's the it's the board.
I don't remember if I talked to you and asked if I needed to or not needed to.
I don't think I ever talked to her. I
think I talked to somebody else and they said, well, I guess so.
I don't know. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
assumed because it wasn't a fire commission, it was the village board getting the presentation.
I love this.
And I don't even know why I have to be here because the village board's not doing any resolutions or like no action is being taken. It's just a synopsis.
You're here as an IT person actually, just to hit the button and turn it on. No minutes needed. Even better. Good. I'll go home, do the agape dinner.
What's agape?
I don't know why they call it's the Seder, and then they go up and they do the Tenebrae service, which I missed last year.
Where do you go?
To the church. So I go back to work.
Oh.
But I'm not working there now. Sorry. Being a promotion girl.
You're not.
Oh, I am.
You're not the daycare there.
I do the nursery school, the admin, and the bookkeeper.
Oh, okay.
So, but now I would just go as a person.
Testing. Yeah. So the next one will be the fire meeting.
I think it's the 9th. I'm trying to figure out a good time to go see my mom.
Oh, down in Florida?
Down in Florida, because my sister's really sick, and so I'm trying to, but I don't wanna be away on the 22nd, because my husband's gonna throw away all my stuff on both makeup day. I had to stay home and protect myself.
Yeah, protect your stuff. Yeah.
And like work it in between all these other dates, so. Figure it out. Alrighty. Well, that's nice.
How are you doing?
Good, how are you, Doris? I picked up the cover at first glance, I thought Mike Trainer was there. At quick glance, I thought it was Mike Trainer.
That's my wrist, I didn't feel like a man until I got to the club.
Come on, 59 engine.
That was good, that was real good. 39 truck I was assigned, so I was Tillerman. Yep, and then, this is Dave Halverson, he's our DPW soup. Nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet
Mike Buckles. How are you, Dave? Thank you. So real quick, 39 truck for 5 years, 45 truck for 7 years, and I went to the fire investigation and retired as supervisor.
Supervisor 500.
30 years of service.
Congratulations to
Hi,
you.
Jeff.
What year did you apply?
How are you?
Oh,
I
just
retired
wonderful.
13.
Jeff! Jeff, do you know Mike? Jeff is one of our,
Former members,
yep,
He
and
was chief.
Board of Fire Commissioners.
back back when.
Good evening, how are you? Rick Giampaolo? I don't know what the lineup's gonna be, so. How are you, sir? How was your day?
Long.
Thanks for being here,
No problem.
appreciate it.
My day's been strong.
I've been checking. Trying to keep an eye on it.
Hello, Mary. How are you?
Oh, just fine. Ready for breakfast on Sunday.
Who's driving that BMW?
I saw it tied before I came in.
I said, although.
Just hit a home run.
Good thing Bertie's flight was late, huh?
Pretty
That's
good.
the only reason why he started.
Just so you guys know, this is all live.
We're
So
live
live?
now?
It's all live.
Oh, it's all live.
Yeah, it's being broadcast. Just so you know.
Okay.
Quick glance, I said, why's Mike on the
I gotta be on TV, oh boy.
Holy cow.
Public to
Except for
hear
the
that.
beard, right?
Yeah, I said, why's Mike on the cover?
Transparent government.
It's pretty good.
Brilliant. YouTube live, just so everyone knows.
Got a baseball shirt on. There you go.
When,
It's a
uh,
national holiday in the Trainer household, you know?
7/11, 1981.
And you're retired out of where?
So you gonna help your mom?
In 13. Mike Shanley was there then?
Yep.
So we're right. We're all set.
He-
So I worked with Mike in
39 truck.
39, he came on after me. I got 39 years old. Two probies before me and. So two probies before me, me and another guy in my class.
Come down whenever you want.
I was
Oh, you got a couple grades.
That was like nowhere, that was like no man's land up there for a while.
Yeah,
Good.
absolutely.
Keep me busy.
You know Mike's sick.
I got two of them, I'm like,
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah, I won't pour
He's
them.
check on him. 27, I'll take care of him. I'll take care of him. He's a man.
Yeah, my. That's what.
But you're getting enough info. Yeah, no, it's quick, what age? 5 months, 6 months? No, yeah, it's 5 months.
But
Yeah,
the
because
grade is towards
But technically, it was supposed to be born in December.
We usually.
Yeah, it does, yeah. They're all, yeah, they're all healthy. That's the biggest.
So ours is our village clerk. Mike is our.
Mike is our
Do you want to sit there?
I'll stand there.
Character.
Then you're okay with the podium facing out.
Whatever way you need, I'm here for you.
I came home this
See,
morning,
again,
my wife
podium
was around, she was
facing
at 9
out,
o'clock
is
this morning.
that-
I came home, she left, she was back at 9 tonight.
But you're gonna be also addressing the board, so we're sitting at the
Pretty sure we
dais.
You're talking to the board.
Sure.
And we'll go straight then.
Whatever.
Yeah, maybe we could go this way.
Here we go, just like this. I got eyes on the whole world now. Now my end, there we go, perfect. I look a little heavy in the camera, but I'll forgive you.
Isn't it, they say camera gives you 10 pounds or something like this?
No,
There's a name.
that camera gave me about 50, I can tell. I'm working on that.
I met you up at the State Fire Academy.
Sometime a year or two ago.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because Mike just mentioned your name, I was like, this is familiar.
Why he didn't thank you?
Yeah, absolutely.
When are you coming up in May? Where was the seminar?
I don't think I'm doing May. No, I wanna come get you guys.
Atlanta?
What's going on?
Remember the?
How are you?
We're live, alright?
We are live. Gotcha. All
Temperature is
right.
coming down rapidly.
You a sucker for punishment, huh? You could have watched this at home.
This is Mike Wilbur.
No,
Mr. Wilbur, how are you, sir?
There you go.
Nice to meet you.
Mike Wilbur.
My
Jim,
pleasure.
James, Jimmy, call him what you like.
Mr. Mayor.
He answers to
Thank you for that.
a
Thank
bunch
you.
of things.
Appreciate that. I read your bio, quite impressive. It looks like you know a little bit about the firematic business. Just a little bit, huh?
I've dedicated my whole life to the fire service. I was 40 years a volunteer and 32 years a career guy, and have been teaching people all through this country and halfway around the world since 1993.
Wow.
So, had a good run.
Long good run. It's still not over, right?
No, it's funny, I've taken on a couple more projects. I have the quintessential consulting job in Indiana. There's this place that I had done some work from before, and they have a brand new $1.6 billion GM battery factory moving into town, and they have a $16 billion 36 building, 213 square foot per building Amazon data center.
Hmm.
And so they obviously have to have a monumental fire presence now with all the growth from that, and 600 homes and 4-story buildings with the retail on the first floor.
Yeah.
And so I've been given $70 million to build 2 stations and housing with fire trucks and people.
Mr. Gray, this is Mr. Wilbur, who is, I'm sorry, Lieutenant Wilbur, who is our.
Author, I'm the author, yeah.
All right, nice to meet you.
For better or worse, nice to meet you.
Trustee.
Are you a trustee? Here, please take one of these. If you have any questions after this, you can dial me up, or you can text me or email me or something, some form of communication.
Third of the way.
It's,
Apparently dropped a little bit.
well,
You're okay, that's okay. You must have been upset.
I try to write it in a
Nope, they
way
tied it up, it don't matter.
that it's
There's a
easy
man on the first
to
line,
understand.
second
If
on
you're
my
not
office
familiar
right
with
now.
the fire service at all,
It's still
but sometimes you can get a little weighty because it's about fire service.
The rest of America is
You know,
rooting for a
we
top.
try to strike a balance.
Chiefs, Rose, and the Yanks. We just want
Gotcha.
Because, obviously, the audience for that, part of it is you folks that have no experience for the most part. And I have been around these parts, training these guys, so it's in my first, so it's in my first 90s. I've been
With this company or with the?
with something in,
With,
yeah, well, even ours been in existence since '93.
How many double plates?
We should have fire.
Oh. Hey, let me remind everybody real quick, hey, can I get your attention? The mics are live, baby. Let me get everybody's attention. The mics are live in here. They're on the dais, they're on that table, and those down there are pressure release to go on. These are on all the time. Anything you say in the back will get picked up, and we are live streaming this tonight, okay? So let's go ahead. Where's Trustee Conrad? Just waiting on, okay, he's coming. Deputy Mayor Kane is commuting back from the city today, so he's running a little bit late. Trustee Paleota will not be here, but we will have a quorum, but I gotta wait for Dave to get here to start, and then we'll kick this thing off.
Are there any visuals gonna be up anywhere?
No, he's gonna brief right from the,
Okay.
right from
We're
this.
gonna go right through the document. We found that's the best way to do it.
Sure.
To refer to the document, that's why we went to the
Dave, if you-
expense of getting you that, so that we could use it kind of as a workbook to go through it.
Bill, if you wanna jump there, and Dave, if you wanna slide up here into Jim's spot, just so that you guys aren't hanging off the edge. Well, I don't know if any of us can.
And
All right.
For those of you in the audience, if we come to a picture of something that's in the book, I will make sure that I show all of you and the folks at home, so
All
that
right.
they can see as well.
All right, can I get everybody stand real quick, face the flag for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please take your seats. Keep in mind, like I said, the microphones are very, there, well, Dave, I jumped too soon. Here's the deputy mayor. I was shifting guys around,
That's
so.
okay.
Yeah.
Jim,
Mike,
take
Or
your
just-
seat.
Or just go right there,
I'll
yeah.
stay right here.
Okay.
You have to just turn in.
Here, I'm the presenter tonight, I'd like you to give me one of your cards. If anybody on the board or the board of commissioners have any questions after this,
This guy's run a few meetings before.
you can contact me either by phone or email. I
All
may
right.
not be in the same time zone, but I answer all my emails.
All right, so let me just go through a couple of quick, our protocols that we have to go through. So, I am gonna make a motion to open a special meeting related to a briefing from Lieutenant Wilbur from the FDNY related to the fire apparatus fleet review and assessment, which he completed in August of 2023. It's taken a while for this, but I felt it was important for the board to kind of hear this up front. It's one thing to look at things on a flat two-dimensional page in a report. It's an exhaustive report. I've read through it. The trustees are all in possession and have had copies of these reports as well. I'd like to point out a few people in the audience and a few folks that aren't here. Charlie Quinn, our fire chief, unfortunately had a death in the family, and he is away and is not here, but our Assistant Chief, Mike Trainer, is in the back. Captain Trainer is here. Lieutenant Quinn is here. There he is. President of the fire company, Mr. Vader, is here. And Eugene Conley, who does a lot of the work on our apparatus and keeps them running with bubble gum, tape, dental floss, and anything it takes to keep them on the road, is also here. And then our fire commissioners, our chair, Rick Giampolo, who is a fire marshal, fire inspector with the FDNY and retired from the FDNY, and we're now privileged to have him as the chair of our fire commission, as well as Jeff Armitage, who served at the West Point Fire Department for many years, retired out of there, and led our Storm King Engine 2 for a number of years. Mike Buckus over here is new to our fire commission, but rounds it out. We've got 3 guys on the fire commission that all have been there in the trenches with the hoses, with the fire hydrants, and know what they're doing. And we really appreciate this opportunity for them to be here. I wanted to try to keep this meeting tight. We have a plethora of meetings this month and next month, but I also think it's important to give Mr. Wilbur as much time as possible to brief this report out. How much time do you think it's going to take you to do the briefing before I can open it up for questions from the board?
Usually it's about 15 or 20 minutes, and then we open it up.
And then we can pepper you with anything, and you can
Whenever-
field them. All right.
Basically, we just do a quick overview of what our findings were. I feel more important that you are able to ask questions based on what we read.
Yep.
So that we get all questions answered tonight. And as far as time, I am here as long as the forum remains civil. And if there's questions to be answered, I will be here.
So as a retired law enforcement officer, no one yells at the fire department. They yell at law enforcement. So I think you're in good stead here. The people that are showing up, we appreciate the work that they do for us, and we appreciate the work that you did. And real quick, before I let you start, and I'll turn it over to you, I'm going to give a brief bio. Michael Wilbur, who is going to be speaking tonight, and obviously prepared the report that I've referenced that we were in receipt of in August of 2023, has served as a career firefighter with the New York City Fire Department for 27 years. also serves as a volunteer firefighter. Within the FDNY, he was assigned to Ladder Company 56 for 15 years, 8 of those years as an apparatus operator. And in 1995 was promoted to the rank of lieutenant and is presently assigned to Ladder Company 27 in the Bronx. Lieutenant Wilbur also serves on the FDNY Apparatus Purchasing Committee and has given state certification to the FDNY Chauffeurs School. He is also a contributing editor for Firehouse Magazine and Fire Apparatus Journal. He has also served on the IFSTA, I had to look it up, but that stands for International Fire Service Training Association, validation committees for the apparatus operator and aerial operator manuals. Lieutenant Wilbur has received national recognition in emergency vehicle operations, as well as apparatus placement and purchasing. Classic case of an underachiever. So, sir,
I can tell you with all those adulations, that and $4 will get you a cup of coffee up the street.
that's because you're a New Yorker. We know how that goes.
It's $5.
I live in Pennsylvania now.
So Mike, just a couple other introductions so you know. So at the dais here, Doris Wickizer is our village clerk. Jim Kane worked in the Manhattan DA's office for a number of years, and then I was our deputy mayor.
Law enforcement.
Yeah, you got the 1-2 punch.
Notice that my car is parked facing out. So
Dave Carnwright is one of our trustees. He's been on the board for more than a decade. Bill Brain is also another one of our trustees, and well, I already introduced Mike. And Dave Halverson is seated there with that horrific. I don't know what the scribbling is on that hoodie that he's wearing, but Dave is our DPW superintendent, but he's also in charge of the facilities and the grounds operations at the firehouse related to maintenance and things like that. So I think you've gotten an intro from all of us, sir. I'm going to turn it over to you, LT.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for allowing us to come and do this very important work. Yes, sir?
The chief is listening in on his drive back from the funeral in Ohio. He'd like you to step up to the
Hi, Chief.
You know, you can bend that up too a little bit, Mike. There you go. There you go.
Okay. So, welcome. Thank you for allowing myself and my company to come in and do this very important work for you. I'd like to start out with what I found. I don't think you on the dais there understand how lucky and fortunate you really are. In my state of Pennsylvania, there in 1980 there was a study commission, and there was 378,000 volunteer firefighters. Today, in that same state, there are less than 30,000. Volunteer fire service in this country is dying a slow dinosaur death. So it was with great joy that I came once again, and I've been coming to Cornwall on the Hudson since the early 90s when we first did training courses here. So when I talked to the chief earlier this year, it was with great adulation and glee when he told me that he had 4 new members join in the past couple months. The residents of this village and you and the townspeople have no idea what you are getting for free. I walk into firehouses, I do 20 of these fleets a year. Now, unlike past times, I walk in, the firehouses are filthy, the trucks are unkept, there's no esprit de corps. The money that you spend on the fire department here, the resources that you have given them in the past have been well used, well maintained, and well kept. You are extraordinarily fortunate in this day and age to have such a group. It's not only mixed with senior members, but also younger members to take up the reins as time marches on. So I'd be remiss if I didn't make those comments. And I don't have to. And it's from the heart, and it's what we observed when we were here. This is a gem amongst the weeds that you have here. And so I would hope that you would take the recommendations in this report that are listed and implement them as soon as humanly possible and start to get the fleet and the station back up to somewhat of a modern standard. right now, the fleet as it stands is 24.33 years old. There hasn't been a new fire truck purchased here since 2008. That almost goes to being obscene. I understand that at that time when I did this the first time in 2005, that the village was in financial turmoil.
Period of austerity.
Yes. And understand that due to your good works here, that you have turned the situation around. Now it's basically time to give the fire department their due if you want them to continue on. There's nobody here driving around in a police car that's 25 years old. There's nobody driving around here in a DPW truck that's 25 years old. Nobody should be driving around here in a fire truck that's 25 years old. They belong in a museum. According to the National Fire Protection Association standard, anything older than 25 years would be considered obsolete and should be placed out of service. That's almost your entire fleet. I was a little taken aback when I showed up here and the Mac aerial scope was replaced with an American LaFrance tower. I wish you would have called me before you did that. You wasted your money.
All right, put that into layman's terms for those of us that don't know what you're talking about.
The ladder
The
truck
ladder
that you
truck.
bought at that time, the chassis was no longer made, was extraordinarily hard to get parts for back in 2012, 2013 when you bought it,
Got it.
and you paid way too much money for it. And now what's happened, if you read the report, in the last 6 years, you've spent over $68,000 on that. So we're trying to remedy that. You have been good enough, you signed on to buy an engine tanker, and we are going to take the services of tanker 415, and engine 412? I get them confused. We're gonna combine them together. Part of the rationale is that we expect a retrenchment in volunteerism. We expect a retrenchment in drivers, and due to the escalating costs of fire trucks, the acquisition cost, the maintenance cost, anytime you can get a 2-for-1 like that, it was with the village and the tax-paying residents here in mind that was brought to bear. So you've reduced the fleet by 1 there. You need to do something with the ladder truck. The fire truck manufacturing industry is in a state of chaos, to say the least, where a salesman would walk into town, and if he couldn't deliver a truck here within 12 months, he'd probably be out of business because somebody else would come and beat him to the punch. The average wait time for new fire trucks today is anywhere between 38 and we just did an engine tanker like you did here, it's 54 months.
Crazy.
It's insane. It's insane. The cost of fire trucks have almost doubled within the last 7 years. Part of it is government regulation with unfunded federal mandates passed along through the EPA and engine technology. The other part of it was pandemic-related supply shortages. Another part of it, the one major manufacturer, a third of their workforce left between 2019 and 2023 that built these things. And so the cardinal knowledge that walked out of that plant over those years that can never be replaced has put the industry behind badly. So how do we move forward from here, and keeping in mind the fire department and their needs, the taxpayers and their needs, your needs, running this village? So we came up with a plan to replace the truck. There are 3 options in the plan. You can go try to buy a new truck. A new tower like you have in town here is $2.6 to $2.8 million. To buy a used truck to replace the one you have, there's just no good used trucks available right now. If they come on the market somebody's already signed on to buy it before anybody else can find out. The cost of stuff is topsy-turvy. I had the same occurrence in my own life. For the first time with 67 years on the planet, I had my truck stolen. I bought the truck in 2021 for $72,000, and the insurance company just mailed me a check 3 years later for $68,680. The whole market is just insane. What are we looking for ahead? There was in 2005, 6, 7, 8, there was a big push by the EPA to get diesel engines to be more efficient and less polluters. And that was at the time a $50,000 unfunded federal mandate to put that technology in trucks and pass that along to you all the consumers. What are we looking at ahead? In 2027, 6, 7, we have another engine change, and the estimated, nobody even really knows, Cummins, really the only engine manufacturer for fire trucks, cannot say with any certainty until the fourth quarter of this year, but it looks like that price increase could go anywhere from $72,000 to an additional $125,000. Again, another unfunded federal mandate that's passed down to the local taxpayers. Some fire truck manufacturers have ceased some of the cabs that they build because the new engine package can't fit in the cab that they're presently trying to build. And so we're kind of at a crossroads between, nobody, including myself, wants to see diesel trucks belch out black smoke. I've been to Haiti 7 times on mission trips. I know what that's like, and countries like that. But on the other hand, there needs to be help with municipalities that have to bear these costs, and there just doesn't seem to be any there. So that's a new truck. It would take $2.8 million to $6 million, and it would take 50 to 54 months to get it here if you sign tomorrow. Used trucks, it just doesn't appear to be a really good option right now. One of the trucks that the fire department really liked, had for a long time, was a Mack aerial scope. From a cost avoidance standpoint, this is the recommendation that we came up with. The village could buy a used, remanufactured boom for about $40,000 and put it on a new Seagrave Marauder chassis at about 1.1 to 2, and that would represent a new truck. It would be titled for the year that the truck was delivered, and it would represent a cost avoidance to village taxpayers of about 1.4 to 1.5 million. And this piece of equipment, you could amortize that money over at least the 20 years of its first life, and then if you were really smart about it, at the end of 20 years, you would invest in a modernization rehab, and you may be able to get another 20 out of it as well. So that sounds like I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth. The guy just said a 25-year-old truck is obsolete. Well, if you take it to 20-year mark and send it out to get all the upgrades to it and get it rehab, you can get that additional life out of the truck. That's not anything that occurred with the present fleet, and so the fleet is obsolete as it stands. I could certainly help in that endeavor if that's the way the board wants to move. The movement needs to be quick and not 7 months from the time of report until we get to meet again. The price of these things is going up incrementally. My son sells fire trucks. He has a sales meeting every Monday morning to see what's going up this week to add on to the cost of the truck. So I think that, I know that you had a big outlay with the engine tanker, but I think it would be in the best interest of the village to try to deal with this and get this off the docket right away, because the other trucks costed too much money. It's obsolete, and you need a truck here. Some may question the wisdom of that. You have an ISO rating of 4, which if you gained 8 more points could get down to 3. I would suggest to you that if you chose not to get that truck, that you would have a lot of commercial insurance ratepayers here at the door wondering what you're doing with the fire department and why the fire insurance rates have skyrocketed. That's part of that ISO report. The second thing is, in this village, that you have a lot of homes, McMansions, with two-story entrances on the first floor and 35 and 40-foot falls off the rear. You need to have a ladder truck full of portable ladders to protect these people that are out there risking their necks every day on your behalf. I was in 27 truck. We had a tremendous fire that will forever live in the annals of the FDNY history. It was called Black Sunday, where some of my people dove out the windows because they were cut off from the interior stairs. We can't let that happen here. So you need to have a ladder truck. It needs to be full of portable ladders, and it needs to be in service here. And then someone may say, well, you know, we have mutual aid. Quite frankly, no, you don't. You have a river that bounds you to the east. You have West Point that bounds you to the south, that come to find out their ladder truck isn't leaving the base. They will not release it to go. So the only ladder that you have hope for here is Cornwall and their volunteer staffing, and it's my understanding that their staffing is iffy at best. I think the word of the day today for both the village board, the fire commission, and the fire department is you need to be self-reliant. You have a commodity here that nobody else around you has, and that's qualified, trained staffing, both a mixture of young and old. You need to treat that as the valuable resource that it is, and you need to get them the equipment that they need to do this. This isn't a pie in the sky ask. They've had a ladder truck here. There were pictures of a ladder back in the horse-drawn days, and they've had a motorized ladder here since 1953, I believe. So this isn't like something new. This is a gotta be. So I would appreciate your consideration to move this forward immediately so that we can get this going. If they go to Seagrave now, I think they could probably get just a chassis within a couple years' time. So it may cut down on the build time, and certainly it will cut down on the expenditure of what it would cost to replace that truck new. So I would appreciate your consideration with that. They have a brush truck. The brush truck is grossly overweight. Something needs to be done with that. It's not roadworthy. It shouldn't be on the road. It's a danger to anybody in it or around it. It's over 3/4 of a ton overweight on the axles. It was built by a Canadian company. It was a bargain at the time, but it really doesn't meet any of the national fire protection standards as a fire truck, to be honest with you. So that needs to be addressed in the short term. We don't like to run engines out 30 years, but the other engine in your fleet is 411, and 411 will be 30 years old under this plan when it's replaced. And I felt that there was a need to take it easy on you once you get these two big expenditures out of the way, and you're gonna need to do something with the firehouse sooner or later, that we're going to take delivery of a rescue engine in 2035. That's going to be combining again the services of engine 411 and rescue 417. And so we're gonna go reduce the fleet by yet another vehicle, another driver, another vehicle acquisition. So I think there is a good faith effort on the fire department's part to work with the village and the taxpayers to try and manage these capital expenditures in a legitimate, thoughtful, responsible way to still provide good fire protection here, but keep the costs in line with something that you can afford.
Well, you just opened up a Pandora's box, but all things.
They call me Mr. Cheery Man.
No, I love it. We'd rather have you straight to the point and tell us what it is. And these are things that the fire department has been discussing with the board for a number of years, predated me, predated this board. And obviously, one of the big things that we're hyper-focused on this board is infrastructure. And, you know, the fire services are our infrastructure. The fire company is 16 years older than this village is. That's how long they've been around. And my concerns, obviously it's on the apparatus and fleet side, but also on the fact that we are, as you pointed out, and you lauded our folks, that we are still doing it with volunteers, whereas the EMS services across this state are withering and dying on the vine. Everything's becoming regionalized, or it's being outsourced. And
Not to interrupt, but that regional service is not as good as the hometown volunteer jumping
Yeah.
in the ambulance and going to the.
Yeah. And then,
Ours is.
yeah, we've got a pretty good one down here. New Windsor, yeah, we've got a pretty
Again,
good one
we're
down
very
here.
fortunate.
We are very
It's not the
fortunate,
norm.
yeah. But you raised some good points. I think the board, you know, the fire company was able to get our attention in regards to the pumper tanker. That was something that made a tough decision because you're talking $1.4 million. We operate on a $4 to $5 million budget a year with a $3 million water budget, so $7 million. And so obviously $1 million is a big thing. There's routes and ways to do that, and we're doing that. But sensing your, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lieutenant, your sense of urgency in regard to this particular piece of equipment, you're saying that this is not a can wait till later, this is a now thing. Help me out here too, and I've had these conversations with firefighters before. On the police side, the things that run police vehicles down is that they run almost 24/7. When a cop gets out of a car, the car runs, the computer has to stay on, they change them on shifts, they do high-speed chases. Even with the police package, it puts wear and tear on the vehicle. Fire vehicles, the apparatus, are kept much better. Our police fleet is outside. Our fire apparatus is kept indoors. I know that you mentioned some stuff about rust and corrosion and pitting. You're obviously dealing with water, dealing with the elements, and I get that piece of it. What is the biggest stressor on our equipment? Because you say 25 years, and I go, if you're housing them, if you're taking care of them, what would you describe as the biggest stressor to our fleet?
Well, it goes back, if you reference in the report, how many of you are in a vehicle without airbags? Nobody's raising their hand. All the fire trucks don't have airbags. They're available. So what happens over the course of time as technology marches forward, the vehicles can look red, shiny, and new. They can be even not pitted and musted underneath. That's not the point. The point is that the luxuries that the other motoring public enjoy with safety, there's an enhanced seatbelt system for firefighters now that I helped design, where a firefighter can actually fit in a seatbelt with his or her bunker gear on. All the airbags, the way the bumpers are constructed now, all the electronics, there's just a whole host of integration of technologies that render older apparatus just completely obsolete based on how they appear, how they look, how they seem. They're just they're functionally obsolete in today's world. With that said, you mentioned the three biggest stressors that fire trucks have right now is that they're overweight, and some of them are delivered that way new. One of the things that your fire department has been instructed to, the absolute last thing you are going to do with that engine tanker before you pay for it, Mr. Mayor, is you are going to weigh it. And if it is 1 ounce overweight, you are going to tell the manufacturer to take it back and try again. Because overweight fire trucks and misengineered fire trucks are a big deal in today's fire truck world. The second is rust and corrosion. No offense, Mr. Road Superintendent, but what these people are putting on the roads is nothing short of acid. I'm out in the Midwest now in Indiana, and they put beet juice with calcium chloride. It's eating the ever-loving life out of fire trucks. Trucks that are only 5 and 7 years old. One of the things that we learned in doing this work is that if you prep, prime, and paint the underside of a fire truck, it will help seal the underside, and that endeavor costs about $1,000 the last I knew. We did a fleet evaluation in West Grove, Pennsylvania. I pulled under one truck, said to my partner, "What year is this?" He said, "It's an 03. Why?" I said you could clean the frame rails off and you could eat on it. I went over to the next truck, and this was in 2014, and it was, I said, what year is this? He said, why? I said, it's shot. I said, the underside's shot. So what year is it? He said, it's an '09. Well, that was just the no preparation to the frame rails or the air tanks or anything, and it cost the department $15,800 in year 5 of restoration work. So not only is it important to do this now, but it's also important to do it right. There are things that you can do up front that cost very little in the scheme of things compared to what it will cost you later on if you don't do them. Fire trucks are one of the things that I marvel at, that it's a pay me now, pay me later kind of deal. If you don't pay up front and do it right, it's gonna come back to haunt you for the life cycle of the truck. And even a few $100,000 of perceived savings that you enjoy in the beginning, you will have to take that money and triple it to get the truck through its 20-year life cycle. So it's a pay me now, pay me later kind of endeavor. The third thing are aged out tires. Tires are supposed to be taken off and replaced on a fire truck every 7 years. That's the standard. 4 summers ago, in 3 separate wrecks, tires that shouldn't have been on the truck blew out and killed 4 firefighters in 3 separate wrecks because of tires. And unlike the police department, where we worry about running them 24/7, 365, in the firehouse, we worry about inactivity, the tires that dry rot, the pumps that have the lack of water run through them, where the valving gets stuck and the gaskets rot out and create leaks in the packing, and so forth and so on. That's not the case here because of the fire department that you have and their ability to train and to take care of their trucks. I can assure you, in most places, they don't have a fleet like this because the firemen didn't take care of it. You owe them a debt of appreciation and gratitude because they got you this far on what you spent on them. It was through their efforts and their efforts alone of taking care of this stuff. It's just that simple. And, you know, I don't have to say anything. I can just come here and give a spiel. But this group here is just outstanding, and you need to recognize it for what it is, not to be redundant.
Appreciate that, and obviously with your resume and your experiences, that means a lot, because I know you've seen, and not just on your day job, but with all the work that you do in reviewing apparatus fleets, and you've seen the worst and you've seen the best, and so that is truly.
You have one of the best, and the worst, when you go to just take equipment out of the truck, and you get black from your arms down, and you're on truck 1 and you got 7 more to go, you know it's not gonna be a great day.
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna be a long day.
Can I open up the dais to more questions?
Yes, sir.
Bill, you wanna start?
Just really minor ones, I think. An aerial scope boom, we would call that a ladder, right?
Yeah, you
The
all-
lay people.
For the layman, a ladder is on a truck, some with pumps, some without. Here you need without because you want to pack it full of portable ladders. They can go anywhere from 50 feet up to 110 feet in the air. Some have platforms like yours, some do not. They're just aerial ladders like the Cornwall truck. The aerial scope is a branded name. We used them in New York for my whole career. I own one. I own a 1973 antique that recently passed its ladder test and its DOT truck inspection after that much years of service. The boom has a 5,000-pound boom rating. All the rest of them have 1,000. The thing's basically a crane. It's built to last. It's built for the rough and tough, and that's why the city of New York has continually bought them since 1964. It's something that you had here. I marveled. One quick aside here. Eugene called me up one time, and they had taken the truck to Vales Gate. Vales Gate couldn't get their truck into the fire because it was too darn big. But Cornwall on Hudson got their single axle Mack back there and put an apartment fire out. What was that, Kings? Kingwood Gardens. It was,
What year was that?
had to be in the late 90s, wasn't it?
Early 90s.
Early 90s, mid 90s? Yeah. So they
They
had,
cut down across the lawn between some trees, set it up, and
Wow.
put the neighbor's fire out for them. So, it's something that the group here is used to working with. It's timeless. I saw people on my job try to wreck them and they couldn't. They're just bulletproof.
And-
So yes, sir.
So yeah, okay. I just wanted to just get the definition of that piece of equipment. And then the Marauder single axle chassis, is that essentially what would be pulled behind an engine with the ladder, with the boom on it?
The Seagrave has several chassis offerings like all the fire truck manufacturers do.
Mm.
The Marauder is the cab that they would use
So it's
in
a
that
cab.
application. It would seat 6. It would have body compartments on it, and then we would take the used boom off and put it on the new Marauder chassis, and that's where the cost savings would occur. It's something that they've been doing right along where I live in the greater Harrisburg area. Duncannon, which is right up the street from me, had one done. They had an old Mack like those guys and said, well, we can't afford, at that time, $1.5 million. We need to do something, so we're gonna remount our boom on a new chassis, and that went seamlessly. And then, the city of Harrisburg recently put in service just a month ago, the same thing, and those were both contracted through ITE. He's an aerial scope guru. He buys used booms, he remanufactures them in his shop, and then they're sent out to Seagrave and put on.
My question in regards to option A that Bill was speaking to, what's the lead time on this? How long will it take if you went with option A? I'm asking for each one of the options. So option A, how long would it take for this to be done?
To buy a brand new truck right now, like they would want, from the vendor they would want, is about 54 months.
So you're talking about 4.5 years.
Yes, sir, that's correct. The aerial scope remount, I think Harrisburg had theirs done in 2 years. What you would do is you would buy the boom as soon as possible, and then you would place an order, you would spec out a chassis and place that order. And it takes obviously far less time to build just a chassis with some body work than it does to build the boom and all that. So there would be a reduction in time, but they were out 3 years, Seagrave, they were out 36 to 40 months on those trucks. So I think you could cut some time.
And that's the one, Mike, that's you have down here. That's one low 1.1 to 1.2 in that vicinity.
The Seagrave that you see.
Total for the total package.
Right, the Seagrave truck, here, let me show you.
Jim, on page 59, he's
Yeah,
got
it's
the
page
59.
50. It's page 4, yeah, page 50.
50, yeah.
50 and 51.
Okay.
and on 59 is the timeline of the options there, if you look
Okay.
when they hit.
What is it?
Okay. The truck that you see on the top was an old Mack, truck
50,
that
49
Alex
and
had bought
50.
and took the boom off. The truck on the bottom is that Marauder cab. It was
Okay.
delivered to the city of Harrisburg this year, the last few months. And the cost of that, I know for factually, is 1.2 million. But Alex said when Harrisburg did this, because they don't have a lot of manpower, they had to put controls at the pump, at the base, and they had to put controls at the top. He said they added $100,000 to the cost of this that wouldn't necessarily need to be added here. But again, with the fire trucks going up at the rate that they're going up with double-digit cost increases, that's today.
Yeah.
Do this and wait a year from now, and it's not gonna be that, I can assure you. It will not be. So, but that's what kind of money you're looking at for that. And that truck, this new Seagrave with the remanufactured full, that truck would be titled for the year that you bought it, it would be considered brand
That
new.
year, yeah.
And again, that's a cost avoidance of 1.4 to 1.5 million dollars.
And so looking, for example, at those pictures of those two pieces of apparatus, the boom is the whole after component, right? Everything that's behind the chassis,
It's a boom.
that whole thing is the
Right.
boom.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
That's correct.
got it. And then I guess the numbers in the proposed plan on 59, where you're referring to the engine numbers and the engine tanker number 412, et cetera, you're updating the new equipment is given the same number as the existing piece, right?
That's correct,
Yeah,
it's a
okay.
replacement
Okay.
in lieu of, yes.
Yeah, just so I understand which ones are new and then
The
which
ca-
ones are then, yeah, I got
And
it.
I believe, that the county would require that.
Okay.
So, yeah, you're just gonna trade out numbers as you
Those are
trade
9
trucks.
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to make sure I'm reading it right to understand which pieces we're talking about as we go forward.
I
And then,
think when you get the new engine tanker, that should be, lettered for 412, I believe. It's gonna be more engine than tanker.
Is that what it
Or
is?
they may choose to ladder, or, refer to it as tanker 415. I think that'll be their option. It'll be up to the fire department what they decide.
Mike, with option A, and you guys will know this too, and that is, I know right now, our tower, it just barely fits in,
Yeah.
barely fits. This I will call option A a retrofit, just in general terms. Will that fit?
I think Lieutenant Wilbur would have the answer. to that. What's the length on a single axle rebuild?
I think it's shorter than what you have. I think we had it listed somewhere in the report.
I mean, that's really important.
Yeah.
Well,
Even though we're
but
gonna
he hasn't
rebuild.
even gotten to the facility yet.
Mine
That's
is-
the next thing.
Well, that's-
Yeah, that's-
Huh?
Single axle, I think.
It was 37 or 38 feet, yeah, so it's gonna be
I know.
about 10 feet shorter than what you have.
Oh, okay, all right,
that's
okay.
It will still be the same.
That was the other thing I was gonna, okay, all right,
75 feet up.
okay.
And I would not recommend anything that wouldn't fit. One of the things, when we did this work, we measured each bay in the station. We put the tape measure on the door and measured the door clearance, the angle of departure and inclination coming into the station to make sure that whatever we recommended for you would fit.
Did you get nostalgic when you walked into the one portion of it, which the first part was built in, Mike, 1910?
23, Tom?
1923, 1903. And then what year was the extension put on? 78. Okay. So you haven't even gotten to facility yet. I know that that's not part of your review, but
But I will just tell you, that, the facilities that they're in are outdated. One of the main concerns in firefighting now is cancer. Firefighters are dying at astronomical rates from all kinds of exotic cancers. Some things that have been technologically advanced throughout the fire service are the clean cab concept, where breathing apparatus and bunker equipment are kept outside the cab and outside the living quarters of the firehouse, because that gear is contaminated with known carcinogens. There are standards now on washing gear, how often it has to be washed, when it has to be washed, how it has to be washed, how long you can keep the gear before you have to change it out. I know that apparatus manufacturers are gearing up for what's sure we all know is coming, that when there is going to be a structural fire within my lifetime, it's going to be considered a hazardous material incident, and firefighters will go in their bunker gear. There will be a regional decon task force that will come in. They will have to shower, get in white Tyvek suits, surrender their gear, and go back to the station and get new street clothes. I think that's coming sooner rather than later. The manufacturing sector have come up with some interesting designs as how they're going to put these regional decon units on chassis and drive them about the countryside. But when you get into the firehouse discussion, firehouses now that are built have dirty sides and clean sides. That stuff stays here. There are showers here, and the living quarters, the meeting room, the offices, the training room, all are on that side. In between that area would be decontamination for EMS. Supplies would be decontamination for breathing apparatus. So we would have a hot zone and a cold zone. We'd have a dirty side and a clean side. And your present station, having been built so long ago, has none of those modern facilities. And then you have to understand that at some point in time, and that won't be in my lifetime the way things are going, thank goodness, but you are going to have to pay people to do this work here in this village at some point in time. And so the next station that comes on the board needs to have some kind of living facilities for 24/7, 365 habitation. And even if it doesn't come to career all at once, you wanna have a place for these guys and gals to come on storm details and have a place to rest in between calls while they're out serving the community and away from their families.
Yep.
And so
Well said.
that's the 360 view. Again, that wasn't our charge in this.
Yep.
We do that work, locating stations, coming up with things that you would need in the station and where the best place would be. That's right up our alley, but that wasn't part of the charge here.
Just a couple other little tiny detail things. On the brush truck, I don't see it on the plan on 59, but I do see that you say choose an open year in which to replace it. On the overweight question, if these things are designed to specific standards, how do they show up overweight? And if they can be sent back to be fixed from a weight perspective, is it possible to
Okay,
do
I'll
a
give you-
temporary fix on the brush truck? I'm a little confused about how they get overweight in the first place. Like, is just the design is just wrong?
Because
Or
in many
components.
cases,
Wait, we need you on the mic, Mike.
no,
Yeah.
in
Oh,
many cases, they're misengineered.
Okay.
In the case of Bluffton, Indiana, we went there to do a fleet evaluation last year. They had 8 trucks, 4 of them were overweight, 4 of them were over 20 years old, and the 4 that were overweight, 3 out of the 4 were the newest trucks in the fleet. My company, on their behalf, worked tirelessly without remuneration at all, because we weren't counting on this. I wrote a very in-depth position paper on how the trucks got the way they were. They were delivered from the factory overweight. There is a piece of paper that comes with the truck upon delivery. It's called a manufacturer's order, and each truck needs to be weighed before it leaves the factory. And in accordance with the weight that they gave us on their MCO, this document, the truck was doomed to be overweight right from the start. And so I tag teamed with their attorney, the city attorney, and he was less than thrilled. And I finally had a heart-to-heart with him. These trucks can't be fixed. There's nothing that you can do. The city of Bluffton taxpayers paid for a 3,500-gallon tanker. And they deserve a 3,500-gallon tanker. And it can't be 3,500 on the chassis that the manufacturer chose to put the tank and the body on. It won't work. The only way they can even begin to make it work is to start chopping water off of it. Well, that's not what the taxpayers here paid for. So you need to get some gumption. Oh, he said, they're not gonna give our money back. Yes, they are, because they are so wrong and this is so litigious, they will give you your money back. You just have to go in there with that attitude. For only the second time in 30 years of doing this, the brush truck that the same manufacturer, brush, mini engine, and the tanker were taken back, and we got $668,000 restored to them. And those are brand new trucks, sir. The one truck, the tanker had 1,400 miles on it. And the worst part about it wasn't that the fact that it was 1,300 pounds overweight on the rear axle, it was 11,000 pounds underweight on the front axle. And the fire chief, because he didn't really hire me, the city did, the fire chief was giving me a little pushback. It's our newest truck. You mean we can't use it anymore? That truck is never gonna see the light of day here again. If you try to take it out of here, I'll call the Indiana State Police. You're gonna kill somebody in that thing. And again, it's a new truck right from the factory. If you don't know what you're doing, buying fire trucks today, you can become a victim in a real hurry.
anything else on your end, Bill?
No, those are my questions. Thank you.
David, anything?
Couple questions. Obviously, there's going to be a warranty on the engine and chassis. What's the what's the standard warranty for an engine?
For that,
Yeah.
it's a year bumper to bumper,
A year?
a year. Yes. Now, what you can do, when you bid trucks out, depending on how you like the dealer that you're buying these from, you can bid additional years. And that's after you find out what the cost of the price is. And what we do when we go through when we form a set of specifications, we will put what's 2 years of bumper to bumper, what's 4 years of bumper to bumper, what's 5 years of bumper to bumper. And so we get those costs out so that if you want to pay for that, sometimes the costs are fairly reasonable and you can't do it here for what they can do it for and do as good a job, so it may be, in the scheme of things, something that you would wanna take advantage of, and then other times are just,
But is that industry standard, 1 year? I mean, if you buy a
Yes.
car, and I understand a car is not a fire truck, but a car, if you're not gonna get 5 years, you're gonna go, well, I'm gonna
Yeah,
go
at
back
least
and
5
argue
years.
that.
On standard trucks, you get at least 5.
At least
At
5.
least 5.
you get a 5-year warranty on the engine. You may get a 10-year warranty on the frame. There are components that have longer warranties, that's true. But the total truck, bumper to bumper, front to back, top to top, the industry standard's a year. And now what these folks are doing, which is really incredulous, there's one company that's trying to farm out their warranty so that you have to go through a warranty center to get permission to get warranty work done, which just adds another layer of, we don't really wanna service the warranty. Warranty work is, I can relate a personal story. I was involved in a seatbelt project in the city of New York, and I happened to go to the Ferrara Delivery Center across the George Washington Bridge to make sure that my seatbelts were getting in these new trucks. And there were 13 ladders, 3 heavy rescues, and a hazmat unit completely built sitting in this warehouse. That's over $20 million of rolling stock that the labor's paid for, the engines are paid for, the transmissions are paid for. Why is it here? Well, the city of New York has refused deliveries right now because they're not happy with our performance on our 5-year bumper-to-bumper warranty that we sold them.
So obviously, my concern is you get this truck delivered, it's probably gonna have a Cummins engine in it.
Most definitely.
Right, if something happens to that truck, where are we taking it?
Well, if it has an engine issue, you would take it to Cummins. If you had a bumper-to-bumper warranty,
They would come
you
here.
would take it to the dealership. The local dealership to here for Seagrave, if you were to engage them, is just across the river in Bedford Hills of,
So it's not terrible,
no, it's not far at all. We're very fortunate here.
unless you break.
Is that
something.
Westchester or
Yes,
Putnam?
yes,
Westchester.
Yeah, it's Westchester.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Might be
It's out
Putnam,
there,
yeah.
But it's not, it's less than an hour from here.
Yeah.
I mean, my volunteer department bought a used Seagrave aerial, and I think he was a little over an hour from Howells, so yeah, it's not far.
What else, David?
And they're very good and very fair. I know the guy running that personally. My best friend that worked with me at EVR used to work for Seagrave and brought him along as a salesperson. He does a nice job. He's
Good.
honest as the day is long. In fact, you would like him.
I would.
He is a former law enforcement officer himself.
Our kind of people.
There you go.
All
Yes, sir.
right.
I didn't go through word for word in the report, but I was wondering if you estimated the value of 413.
I can get a value on it. I can tell you that,
Well, I mean, obviously, we have to get rid of it.
right, it's not worth much. I will just, it's not gonna.
Not even for parts? I mean, I guess the parts are obsolete too, so it's not even, you're saying, you made the comment about being an antique and belonging in a museum. Is that where it's at?
I have a fire truck friend who is a broker for fire trucks. Anything older than 20 years
Oh,
old,
okay.
he can't sell it.
I get it,
Okay.
He can't sell it, so.
because it's gonna run out.
Yeah,
I think the best thing that you could hope for that is either A, somebody buys it for the engine and tranny and
breaks it
parts it
down,
out, or somebody from a South American country is going to buy it, put it in a container, and they're gonna love it until it breaks, and then they're not gonna have any parts for it.
Any more, Dave?
No, I was just wondering if you happen to know how many hours are on 413. Obviously, miles don't really make that much.
There's a
difference
table in
fire
here, right?
Was it in the report? If it
Hours.
wasn't in the report, it didn't have an hour meter. Let me look.
It's on,
I didn't see it.
3155. It's on page 17.
So how would you say, in the grand scheme of things, being a fire truck expert, how would you rate that amount of hours for the age of the truck?
Get it, yes, yeah, but yeah, that, it's already in the works.
Yeah, all right.
But yes,
I
not meeting
think,
payments.
Given where it came from.
Came
that-
from Deer Park, correct?
Long Island, yes, sir, that the hours are in line with the miles. I don't think there's anything unscrupulous there, that adds up to.
No, I was just wondering.
Yeah, no, it adds up, that's appropriate for what, you see your tanker with 20,000 miles only has 881
Yeah.
engine miles because the runs here, the hours of operation on the engine for the pump and stuff, if you're just trucking water, you're just trucking water, so it's not getting the pump time on the engine versus the 17,000 miles on 411 and the 1,600 hours. And that, for a place like this with the run count that they do, you can figure about 100 hours versus 1,000 miles, give or take. And part of that is annual pump testing that comes out of that figure as well, and any training that the folks do.
Dave, any more? Good? Jim?
Yeah, Mike wanted to say something.
Oh, Mike?
Yeah, I just wanted to Trustee Conright's point. That ladder truck came from Deer Park. They replaced an aerial scope with it. They sold it to us and bought another aerial scope. And after taking delivery of it, we found out that it had been involved in an accident that was not disclosed to us.
What happened to CarMax?
There is no Fire Max. So, I mean, so they got rid of it for a reason, and they went back to what they originally had for a reason, too.
Very rare do you find used trucks, and because of my connections, 3 phone calls and I can find out whether it's real
Yeah.
or whether it's, and there's just not a lot of real trucks out there because of the backlog. Think about what's going on. Major cities like Baltimore, Buffalo, Detroit, Cleveland are buying used volunteer fire trucks to keep their fleets up and running so that people have something to ride in. That's how desperate times have become.
Jim?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to point out, I mean, I know everyone here is related to the fire department except for Mrs. Donahue, but anybody who's listening, we've been talking about this piecemeal in regards to the figures. And I just wanted to put it in perspective. And I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. We've already expended 1.4 million we bonded out for the engine. According to looking at your timeline, Mike, our next expenditure is going to be anywhere from 1.2 to about 2.8 million, depending on which option we do. So then we're in the vicinity of 2.6 to almost $4 million over the next 4 to 5 years. And then within 10 years, we're then moving on to replacing 2 engine 411 and 417 for 1 rescue engine. And that one, I think you had down, well, believe me, I'm sure it'll be double by then.
Right, it's,
Yeah.
to buy that truck today is about 1.3 to 5.
Right,
But by the time that rolls around,
2035?
it's gonna be over 2.
So I'm just pointing it out so just people recognize that this is gonna be bonded out for quite some time. And they're not insignificant figures, but then it's not an insignificant effort that you gentlemen undertake, and gentle ladies too. So, yeah, I just wanted we were talking about it piecemeal, I just wanted to keep it holistically in a macro level, what we're looking at. Because, look, things have to get done, as you pointed out. It comes at a cost, and for those residents listening to this, that it's going to cost us. But a study has been done, and we can rely on this to make an informed decision.
You have the facts.
Yes.
It's really in your hands.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that the taxpayers have to realize as well, we were just talking about it, I was a member of the House Fire Department. The district tax for a normal house there is $260 a year. It costs more to collect the garbage, and that only comes once a week. The fire truck comes 24/7, 365. So I think you have to keep that in perspective. And also, when you amortize the cost at 1.2 million over the 20-year life expectancy, I mean, it's not a bargain, but it's a bargain, okay? That's the useful life of that truck. If you went to advertise it on a bond, they're gonna ask you, well, what's the useful life? Well, it's 20
Well, it's what I would term intergenerational, because it's gonna be around for a long enough time, so it's not borne on the backs of everyone here now. Partially will be, but then it's passed on.
Yes, that's correct. And the same way with any new fire station and, you know, the engine tanker that's coming, and then when you go to replace the rescue engine. Believe me, I worked really hard on this based on the audience to make it the most fiscally viable, fiscally conservative way to get you out of the hole. And make no mistake about it, you are in a hole. And I think I have charted a fair, equitable, reasonable path forward for you to follow if you will do it. I'm on another job now. I did a report in 2021. People just like you sat there and said, yeah. And I'm back 3 years later, had to redo the report. Instead of buying 5 new trucks, they're buying 3 at $1.6 million more. And the tanker they were gonna get new, and the engine they were gonna get new, they have to send out in rehab because they don't have enough money to buy 5 new trucks now because they waited 3 years. You cannot wait.
Well, there's no board quite like us, I would say.
Well,
Yeah,
the time, and I don't mean to be an alarmist, but
No.
the money involved and what I know about the fire service and about the fire manufacturing, there's no time to waste.
No, in looking through the scheduling that you put forth, I mean, that is what I think this board and other boards are committed to, which is essentially setting up a template and a timeline, and you gave us that. Will we be able to keep it in line exactly as that is? No, you pointed out that there was another community that didn't do that, but we.
Because of the cost, if you don't.
Yeah, but we're in good fiscal health here. We're blessed for that. We've got a good bond rating. We're blessed with that.
That's because of the work that you have done.
Well, previous boards, but yes.
That you dug yourself out of the hole, and that says a lot about you as a group as well as the fire department, yes.
Anybody else from the dais?
No, I just,
Dave?
one other thing, we don't have, we don't necessarily, enjoy a fire district like many communities do. So we're, Uptown has a fire district that's
Right,
taxed.
And that's
We don't
why
have
we're
that.
buying new ladder trucks, and we're gonna take a different approach to achieve the same goal and do it at a significant cost savings to your taxpayers. That's what this is about. We're
Dave,
not
anything
taking a
else?
backseat to anybody, we just have to do it a little bit different way and be more considerate and more conservative.
If you would, oh, I'm sorry, Bill. go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I would just like to say, I appreciate seeing the 30-year vision for how to maintain the fleet. What's obvious, even just from looking at the page, is that we've got these hypothetical open years of 4-year stretches where we're not, we're investing every 5 years in something new and rehabbing and so on.
So you can.
Understood. Yeah.
When it's coming, so
Right.
we have 4 years to prepare for that moment in time that
But what I
we
would,
have to act.
I guess what I would say is that for the first 6 years, which are the closest years on this list, we have something happening pretty consistently every year. There's a lot of expenses up front. My expectation is that as those years that are down the road right now with the nice open space in between and one expenditure every 5 years, as we get closer, there's going to be unforeseen expenses, breakages, obsolescence, new standards, the things that are making it necessary now. So,
we've given you a little
what's the
preview.
margin of error in here, I guess is what I'm asking.
I stand by, and I'll tell you why. The first female fire chief I ever worked for was Chief Janet Morgan. She was a fire marshal in her town in Connecticut. It's 2 stations. They had 10 heavy pieces of equipment. She hired me to evaluate her fleet. She then asked me, what would it cost to come back in 5 years to redo the plan? That was 18 years ago. Never been back since. She calls me every once in a while and says, your work is timeless.
All right.
This is what you, I don't know whether you understand this, what you have here is a living, breathing, working blueprint for the future. If you do what this says to do, when it says to do it, they're gonna be 4 open years and they're gonna be just fine. It's when you deviate from this. And why is there so much upfront cost? Because you haven't done anything in 20 years.
Yeah, that's it.
Sooner or later, you gotta pay the piper, and so the fire department has been patient while you went through your fiscal woes, while you're not in fiscal woes anymore. And
Yeah.
if you're gonna turn this around, you have to invest in them and invest in the village and invest in their future. And once this
It's,
short protracted spree ends, we're gonna spread everything out, and it'll be much more manageable.
and you spelled it out perfectly, and I'm sure there are other communities similar to ours, most other communities that dealt with the same periods of austerity and kind of, and then now is, yes, and now as things change, but to trustee Brain's point, you know, all these upfront costs, so we just expended, you know, doing it through bonding, we just did that on the engine, having this next one right up front. That's gonna be something we're gonna have to take to our populace here and make that case. Look, as I said to you before, the fire department, nobody hates the fire department. Everybody wants to see them succeed, and obviously having volunteers, they're not here for the pay and the compensation and the retirement benefits. So I definitely see this as something that we will look at, and looking at that table and trying to plan that out to at least put ourselves on that path. So with that said from the dais, I do want to open it up to the fire commissioners. I know that you guys, oh, I'm sorry,
I
Mike.
just got one more point. We had our Battalion 4 Fire Chiefs meeting last night, and the village of Highland Falls is in the same situation. They have a firehouse that is outdated. They're looking at replacing 2 pieces of apparatus at the same time because, again, they're just obsolete, you know, so we're not unique.
Yep.
You know, so it does, we are unique in that we are a village fire department. There's only 3 or 4 of them in the county. One of them is Woodbury, but they have the Woodbury Commons as one of their big providers of tax funds.
Otisville is a village department.
Yes.
Good.
Is there state bid for fire trucks?
There's Sourcewell, and that's what we purchased the tanker off
Pumper
of.
tanker, yeah.
And that represented to you about a 2% savings, honestly.
Yeah.
Internally, I know
Good.
that to be true. So you saved 2% on that purchase.
The mayor just said pumper tanker, and we've said tanker engine here, and we said tanker over here. What is that
Yeah.
piece of equipment called?
I've been referring to it as the pumper tanker.
Yeah, I thought it was a
Am I
pumper
wrong?
tanker also. I saw
Is it a
tanker
pumper
engine.
tanker or not?
It's an engine tanker, pumper tanker. The difference between an engine tanker and a tanker carries just essentially water, where an engine tanker or a pumper tanker carries water as well as personnel. We have a tanker right now.
Got it.
Shuttles water,
So-
2 people ride in it, that's it.
You can use this as a dual-purpose engine, to lay hose, to stretch hose off of safely, to have people come, portable ladders. So in your ISO, it would count as a full-fledged engine. It would add to the 2250 fire flow that you need for the village. If you bought just a straight tanker, it's just a water hauler, it may have a pump, there's no room for personnel or portable ladders, and it would just be a tanker. So you've improved your lot in life by doing that.
Rick, anything, I know you speak the language, so is there anything that,
I think Mike laid it out pretty clearly and pretty well. I'm grateful that we finally got to have this meeting. I think you all
you mean the report was done in August and we're just finally now having a public meeting on it? Yeah.
Mike, you have anything?
Jeff?
Yeah, I have a few things. First, I commend Mr. Wilbur's report, right to the point, and this is the second time he's been here. He did a report for us in '05, which we took some stuff out of it, but we put the other stuff off to the side, and it was probably a mutual fire department board, but it boils down to money, which it did. Just some costs. Everybody keeps throwing $1 million, $1.7 million. When we bought that 412, we paid $297,000 for it. So I think the village in the 30 years plus had made out pretty good. That newest engine, that 05, we paid $405,000 for it. So you can see the difference of what the pricing is compared to what it was, and like Mike said, it's not gonna get better. It's gonna get probably worse. That tanker that we have now presently, when we presented it to the board, we were supposed to get a pumper tanker, but back at the time, and nothing against the board, the pumper tanker was $295,000. The one that they purchased was $135,000. So again, it was a lot to do with money. So I think the board's got to look at it. And I think at this point, second time Mr. Wilbur's been here, still knowing you have, some requirements and some restrictions, and you got to sell to the residents of the village. But something's got to be acted on now, because we don't want, I'd love to have Mr. Wilbur come back, Mike, but do we need to bring him back for a third time? Which I know he would come back,
I'll
because,
be deadpan honest, okay? The money that I make off these endeavors goes to my wife, and she's single-handedly trying to keep the US economy afloat. So, for me, it's not about the money.
No, I
But
understand
will tell you
that.
what it is about. People not listening to me.
And
Okay, that pains me, because you're wasting my time and your money. If you don't do what it says in this book, you're wasting your money and my time.
I say that to him all the time.
And I agree with you, Mike, and I think the words that you said about the organization, old, new, shows that this is an organization that it's gonna be here today, and it's gonna be here another 100 years and another 100 years. So I appreciate what you've done, and I support you 100%.
Thank you, and we just, it pains me to do this. It's gratifying when I do this kind of work. And like Chief Janet Morgan, she does exactly what it says to do. Her board got right on board. They knew it was a living, breathing document. It was a blueprint for the future, and we're 18 years in. And they're clicking right off. There's no surprises. Chief Morgan's not going and asking the board for a new truck 2 years before it's due. And the board isn't asking where we're gonna find the money, because they already know that in 2028, engine 5 is due for replacement, and they have to be fiscally responsible and make sure that capital expenditure is funded. And that's how this all works.
Good.
But it's a good document, but it's also a time-sensitive document. And the earlier you get cracking, the cheaper it's gonna be. As we throw these $1 million figures around, they seem daunting in a village that has a total budget of a little over 7 million. I get that, but it is what it is, and it's not gonna get any cheaper by procrastinating.
Yep. All right, let me open it up. Dave, anything? Good? Mr. Conley, sir.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, with tower ladder that we currently have now, as Mr. Wilbur said, it's no longer manufactured. Good luck finding stuff. I've been fortunate to find a few things from a dealer in Pennsylvania, but even when I call there, the guy's like, we have none. Good luck if you can find something. You just can't find it anymore. So a lot of the parts are becoming, so if something breaks, it's either cob job, they're boogered together, or you don't have it. You can't do it. It's just that you can't get the parts no more for the cabin chassis so much. Yeah. I just want to add that,
You're a critical mass.
Yep. Okay. Captain, anything to add? Lieutenant? Mr. President? All right, anybody else? All right, Mr. Wilbur, I want to thank you on behalf of this board and on behalf of this village. Outstanding job.
Nice job.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I appreciate you doing
If
this.
you need anything, give us a call.
Okay.
We're at the ready. Thank you. Thank you,
Like
everybody.
to thank you and the fire department. We will be dealing with you and the fire commissioners shortly and putting together a plan to discuss this at upcoming village board meetings and figuring out how we're going to put this plan in place. All right? A lot to think about. All right, with that in mind, I'm gonna make a motion to close the special meeting of the board. May I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. The mics are still alive until Doris tells you that they're not.
Your jacket's on the ground. I know, thanks.
Doris, thank you. Everything worked out good on there. Okay, you're gonna kill the feed?